I hire movers and have all of Grace's furniture and possessions boxed up and put into a storage rental facility. I retain all my parents' furniture that they had left before my dad had met Grace. Welcome back to They Did What? Your source for the internet's craziest, most entertaining stories, where I go over them, analyze them, and most certainly make fun of them. Today, I'm going to go over a story titled, My Hag of a Stepmom Gave Away My PlayStation 4 while I was still away at college, so I rented out her house while she was on her honeymoon with her newest husband. And big shout out to Ash for sending me this story. And guys, this story, which is definitely entertaining, is about a young guy. He's obviously like college, a little bit past college, 20s, who really sticks it to his wicked stepmother after she pushes him too far. You're going to see in this story, guys, that his dad and mom were together, they were happily married, and his mom died relatively young. His dad fell into a deep, dark depression, and her nurse was really putting the moves on him, and he eventually, because he was unhappy, married her real quick. And you can see, she obviously married him for his money. And then, mysteriously, he passes away, which we can certainly question the timing there. And foolishly, he left her a huge chunk of his wealth. However, you're going to see in the story, he left his son the house that she was living in. And she crosses him, pushes him too far, and ultimately he has fun sticking it to her. And you'll see what I'm talking about as I go through the story. But it's quite an entertaining one. And it's sad when you hear these stories when these poor guys, they're down, they're at their lowest point, and some woman swoops in, obviously knows he's got money, and gets together with him, and the guy can't see past that and everything like that. But ultimately, this is a story where the son has the last laugh and justice is served in a sense. So, starts off, says here, I've been reading a lot of Reddit lately, especially about entitled parents, but made a new account when I came across this page. I never thought I'd actually try to contribute something until now. Blah, 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 Reddit, whatever. And by the way, guys, there are elements to this story that might make you say, is this real? One has to question a few things, but regardless, it's entertaining as hell, and there are things in here that definitely do happen in the world. Okay, he says, so here goes. I'm an only son. My mom died of ovarian cancer at only 55 years old. It broke my dad's heart. They've been together since college and were the same age, with my dad being 1 month older than her. I am 22, and I'm about to graduate college with my degree in chemistry, where the main events start to occur. I went to college on a full-ride scholarship. This is important later. My dad, he met my now stepmom when she was my mom's nurse at the hospital where she spent her final days. My stepmom, Grace, as he'll call her, played all the right notes to gain my dad's trust. She was empathetic to him, nurturing, comforting after my mom had passed. I was 17 years old and old enough to sense that she was trying to weasel her way into getting my dad's resources. But it was up to my dad if he wanted to be in a relationship with her. I was in my final year of public school and had just won a scholarship to attend college out of the country the following year. My dad mourned my mom for a year, and that whole time Grace would check on him by phone every month or so, and in my opinion, to scope out the possibility of sinking her hooks into him. No one's surprised about that. After a year passed, Grace took the gloves off and went hard after my dad. Grace was only 40 years old when she and my dad started seeing each other. I didn't like her, but at the same time my dad at least didn't seem so depressed anymore. So I tried to be less pessimistic about her and give her the benefit of the doubt. No, he should have listened to his gut. His gut told him something was wrong. In my gut, I didn't trust her though. But we are Scandinavian, and at least in my family, the son does not tell his father what to do or even offer an opinion. Grace is from the Czech Republic, if you're wondering. Well, it's interesting if he's Scandinavian. I thought college was not free, but taxpayer paid for. But, okay, regarding the scholarship, but okay. My father was a very successful banker during his career and amassed quite a portfolio of wealth. I'll spare you the details, but after 6 months of dating, Grace and my father are married. Smack to his dad. 6 months, but obviously he was so worn down and so unhappy with his wife passing, and she sunk her hooks right into him, as the son here described. My dad never really got over my mom's death, though, and he was getting weaker and weaker, even though he was only 57 years old. Since his health was fading, he called me to him and asked me point blank, he said, "Boy, what do you need to set you up in this life?" I told him I don't need anything. I'm a man and can take care of myself. But what you're even talking about, Dad? You're going to be around for decades. Yet, I did remind him that he did have living sisters with children, my aunts and cousins, and I also reminded him that I had a full scholarship to college, so don't worry about giving me any cash. He was then dead only a year later at 59. This all sounds like the nurse was doing something to him. His food, who the hell knows what, that mysteriously happens to pass away. Maybe he was so depressed, I don't know what, but very suspicious the timing of his death. And he's loaded, and she just recently married him. But it gets worse. I, of course, have seen lots of Hollywood movies, so I consider the conspiracy theory that maybe my dad's nurse wife poisoned him and made him sign over all his money to her. But I really honestly do not think that's what happened. Other relatives didn't like Grace either, but they knew my dad was totally in love with my mom and that her death utterly broke him. Well, long story short, my dad bequeathed his 5-bedroom house to me, even though I wasn't expecting it and didn't ask for it. He gave a small endowment to each of the sisters and their children. He left about 80% of all his existing money to Grace, which amounted to several hundred thousands of dollars. Smack to the father. He's been barely married to her at all, and he leaves 80% of his non-real estate assets to her? You gotta be shitting me. If he wanted to leave her something, that's one thing, but 80%? He should have given that to his son or given it to a freaking charity, but not to her. Unbelievable. My dad ignored me because he's generous to a fault and still gave me several tens of thousands of dollars, which were, of course, very useful to me. Grace tried to put on a friendly front, but I could tell she was angry as hell that she didn't get my dad's house, too. She got 80% of his liquid assets, and she's pissed off because she didn't get the house, too. The fuck she thinks she is? Well, she's a con artist. I don't, it was all set up. That belonged to me, and I had the legal papers to prove it. She was especially mad because we live in an extremely upscale and trendy location, and houses are hard to come by and easily sold for a massive profit. During the first few months after my dad's death, I had the nauseating, creeping existence of knowing that Grace was trying to feel me out to see if I might be into a little relationship with her. Well, that's nasty. And if that was the case, then obviously she got together with the dad on purpose for his wealth, nothing more, and we can all go back and forth about the coincidental timing of his death, his very early death. She still stayed at the house, though, because over the last 3 years she had gotten used to living there and acted like she owned it. And even though I officially owned it, I was always away at college, and I only visited my dad's old house once every couple of months. And even then it wasn't to see Grace, but to see my cousins who lived just a few miles away. I downplayed the fact that it was really my house, and over the months I think Grace gradually forgot that she really had no legal right to the house. She didn't forget, she knew darn well, and she was probably scheming to find a way to take it away from this guy. She probably believed that sooner or later, because I never asked her for any of the hundreds of thousands my dad had left her, that I was somehow independently wealthy and would just give up the house to her. Well, she thought differently. I knew I'd eventually hydrogen bomb this bitch when she started dating some new guy only 5 months after my dad was in the ground. And one time when I came home from college after graduating, she and her new boyfriend, some sleazy-looking D-bag named Ivan, who was only a few years older than me, were acting like I was a guest in my own house and that they owned it. That was probably her boyfriend all along, just waiting to see what would happen. This almost sounds like the movie Tommy Boy. If you guys saw that with Chris Farley, that was 30 years ago, whatever. This woman got together and married his dad, and then he just happened to die, and she got all this wealth, and I'm sure whoever you guys saw the movie, you know what I'm talking about here. Well, anyway, he says I played along. Grace told me she gave away my PlayStation 4 to Ivan's cousin because I'm too old to play video games. She's living in his house, and now she's giving away his stuff. Don't mess with a young man's PlayStation. I don't even know who this mother effer, and you give away my PlayStation 4 to give away to some other shithead who I also don't know. I quickly changed all my network passwords that same day. I smiled, but I knew what I had to do eventually. She also said that she and Ivan were getting married because I just can't mourn your father forever. I have to move on with my life. What a load of crap. I'm convinced this Ivan character was her boyfriend all along. She was probably hoping to marry the dad and then probably divorce him and get her half. That's probably what was the plan, just like in the movie Tommy Boy. But then he happened to die. And one can now question whether this story is accurate, huh? But anyway, I tell her that I graduated college and already secured employment with a local firm and I will soon find a new place to live. She looks thrilled, especially the part where it looks like I will soon have a new place to live. Then, in a patronizing way, she tells me, "You always have a place in our house, though. You are welcome to stay whenever you please." Thanks, Grace. Really generous of you. What I really say is I will probably have a new place in 3 months. She says that's wonderful because she intends to go to her homeland to have a wedding with Ivan and afterwards have her honeymoon. She assures me it's a local affair, otherwise I'd invite you, honey, and anyway, I know you're so busy. I congratulate her. She asked me if I can watch the house for her. Watch my own house? Sure. What I really say, of course, is I will take care of the house, and I'm careful not to say your house. She and her D-bag fiance, who I'm 100% sure is only there for her Grace's money, go on their trip, and I immediately put out advertisements in rental websites offering to lease my house. I hire movers to have all Grace's furniture and possessions boxed up and put into a storage rental facility. I retain all my parents' furniture that they had before my dad met Grace. He says, locks, change them all. Within days, I'm inundated with dozens of inquiries regarding my amazing furnished house with fantastic views. I rented to a wonderful young family, a barrister with his school teacher wife and their 2 preteen children. They pay me their first and last month's rent and sign a lease for a year. I warn them about my crazy stepmom who thinks this is her house, but I present them with the contact information to my lawyer, the same lawyer that my dad had, in case they need any assurance that I'm on the level. I also give my lawyer the information about the storage facility, including the fact that I generously paid for 4 months of storage in advance, which is the whole month longer than Grace's Czech honeymoon adventure. I then found a great apartment in the city near my place of work. There I met a woman in a restaurant I frequent at night after a long workday. We've been dating for 6 months now and are engaged to be married. Smack! Well, the acorn doesn't fall far from the tree. He met this chick, and after 6 months, they're engaged to be married. Dude, you got this big house. You got resources. Maybe she's doing the same thing your stepmom did to your dad. And his dad gets married 6 months or whatever, a short period of time after his mom died. Bonehead. I'm loving everything he's doing here up until this point. Grace, of course, tried to shriek and cause trouble when she realized she got kicked out of my house, but my lawyer quickly shut her mouth without me having to ever speak to her garbage face again. Yeah, imagine her coming back from her honeymoon and seeing that somebody else is living there. All her stuff's gone. That'd be pretty funny. From what I hear, her and her trash husband left the country, and I assume are blowing through my dad's money and will soon be broke like they usually become when they taste a little bit of what they think is the good life. So maybe Grace will go and try to exploit some other lonely man into giving her his money. Probably. Speaking of money, the house I rent out is generating so much money that I am now not only able to help my cousins pay for college, but I moved into a larger apartment of my own. Together with my fiance, I love my job, but really, I could survive solely on renting my dad's old house. Where the hell is this house located? And I'd like to know the situation with this house. He's making so much money renting this thing. But okay. Well, the whole thing's paid for and it's all a big lump every month. And between that and his job, he's doing quite well. He says, and to think, if Grace had only been a cooler and nicer, I might have let her stay at the house, just to be a good sport. And definitely if she stayed the hell out of my room. But no, she had to act all proprietary. So I had to make her homeless as a wedding gift. Postscript. I bought another PlayStation 4 even though I didn't even use my old one that much. It didn't matter. It wasn't for Grace to give away. You don't give away people's things. You give away your own things. Which is why I chose to kick Grace out of the house. Because it's mine and I decide who stays there. Yeah, well, it was obviously a bigger deal than your PlayStation 4 for goodness sake. But anyhow, entertaining story about a leech getting kicked out. But again, there are elements to this story that makes me question how accurate it is, but because it certainly does remind me of that movie Tommy Boy in some ways. But okay, we are also here for entertainment as well. All right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below what you think about this story, and be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.